First drone went down hard, straight into the compost pile behind my barn with a crunch that made the pigs scatter and me spit coffee laughing. My eagle Talon made the kill clean. 4-foot wingspan, steel-eyed, faster than Karen's mouth at an HOA meeting. He didn't just knock it out of the sky, he shredded it midair like it owed him money. A second later, the parts clattered to the ground like plastic hail. I swear the rooster crowed in victory. Second drone came 5 minutes later. Smaller, sneaky, probably thought it could outmaneuver me. Wrong. Claudia, my female golden eagle, caught the glint of its lens before it even passed the tree line. She dove like a bullet from God's own rifle, snatched that little peeping toy right out of the air, and flung it into the side of my silo. That one left a dent and a message: stay out. By the time the third one showed up, one of those fancy commercial models with 6 rotors and a gimbal, I was already in a lawn chair with a beer. My eagles were circling, waiting, practically daring it to get close. It hovered like a fly on a cow's back. Then Screech, my youngest eagle, who ain't the brightest feather in the flock but has the heart of a prizefighter, went full berserker and slammed into it with his chest. The drone spiraled down in flames. Flames. That drone hit the dirt so hard it bounced. I think the goats are still laughing. Now let's rewind a bit. Why the aerial invasion? Why was HOA Karen dispatching tech like she was running a suburban CIA? Well, it all started with a fence. My fence. It's been standing since my granddad laid the posts, and it does what it's supposed to, keep my cattle in and idiots out. But Karen, after moving into a monstrosity of a stucco mansion built way too close to my north border, decided my agricultural aesthetics didn't match her vision of community living. She formed an HOA before her curtains were even hung, recruited a bunch of other bored transplants with too much time and zero dirt under their nails. Their first decree? All adjacent properties must adhere to community guidelines regarding land presentation and airspace harmony. Airspace harmony. That's when I knew this wasn't your average turf war. It was going to be biblical. She fined me for unauthorized livestock activity after my cows mooed past 9 p.m., sent a cease and desist when my tractor interrupted her meditation. I ignored her, so she escalated. Sent drones. First it was just hovering, then infrared scans, then she had the gall to send one with a speaker blaring HOA codes like it was a flying parking ticket. So I trained my eagles. Not out of spite, well, okay, maybe 60% spite, but mostly because if someone's going to wage war on my peace with technology, I'm going to answer with nature's finest warbirds. Warbirds. And man, did they answer. The best part? I installed a camera facing the skies, caught every attack in glorious 4K. Watching Karen's drones get body slammed by eagles? That's cinema. I'm cutting together the footage for a little documentary called Feathers of Justice. Stay tuned. And if you're liking this story, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. You don't want to miss what happens when Karen calls the sheriff or what I leave on her porch after the 5th drone falls. The next morning, I found a box on my front porch. No note, no postage, just a plastic bin labeled Property of HOA. Inside, 5 charred drone rotors, a half-melted controller, and what looked suspiciously like the plastic beak of a flamingo lawn ornament. I guess Karen was declaring war. She didn't even try to play coy. By noon, she was on the neighborhood app blaming rogue raptors for attacking her community surveillance devices. Surveillance, my ass. That woman had more drones than Amazon Prime and the nosiness of a mother-in-law with binoculars. What she didn't realize is I'd trained my eagles to recognize the sound signature of those buzzing intruders. Falconry isn't just a hobby, it's a lifestyle. I even taught one of them, General Talon, to wink before dive bombing. The man has showmanship. And oh boy, did he put on a show. The HOA sent in a new model that afternoon, some military-grade hexacopter with a 360 cam and thermal imaging. It lasted 17 seconds. General Talon and Lieutenant Beakey came in hot, tore it down like a couple of airborne chainsaws, and left the pieces scattered across Karen's brand new patio like high-tech confetti. She screamed. I cheered. That night, Karen called an emergency HOA meeting. I wasn't invited, obviously, but Gus was. Gus is one of my oldest friends, a retired Army engineer who lives 2 lots over and hates nonsense even more than I do. He went in wearing a GoPro under his baseball cap. According to the footage, Karen pitched the whole thing like I was hosting an illegal bird militia. She actually said the phrase aerial terrorism, which might be the single most ridiculous thing I've ever heard outside of a flat earth seminar. Gus asked if she had permits for spying on private land. She dodged the question and accused him of harboring anti-HOA sentiments. He saluted and said, "Damn right." 2 days later, I got a formal cease and desist letter accusing me of weaponizing wildlife. I framed it and hung it over the fireplace. Gus suggested we counter with a cease and desist existing letter addressed to Karen personally. I said we should wait. Something told me she hadn't even started unraveling yet. And I was right. Karen went nuclear. She hired a private security firm to patrol the neighborhood perimeter. They showed up in golf carts with blinking lights, handing out citations for things like unauthorized clucking and non-regulation vegetable growth. One guy had the nerve to tell me my compost bin was visually aggressive. I asked if he wanted to fight it. He said no. But the best part? Karen installed a motion-activated speaker system along the HOA border. Every time someone got close, it played pre-recorded warnings in her voice. "You are entering a monitored zone. Please comply with community regulations." It felt like being yelled at by a GPS with anger issues. My cows stopped grazing near the fence because even they knew Karen's tone meant nothing but trouble. So I escalated too. I trained the eagles to swoop every time they heard her voice. One evening, Karen's system misfired and started looping mid-sentence. "Please comp, 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 comp." And my birds dive-bombed the fence like it owed them money. She ran outside with a broom like she was swatting at ghosts. I started live streaming everything. Eagle Watch HOA edition. First episode hit 200,000 views. Second, 500,000. By the third episode, my eagles had their own fan base and someone in Oregon mailed me a hand-carved perch labeled "No Fly Zone Enforcement." My subscribers begged for updates, and I told them, subscribe to the channel and buckle in. Karen wasn't done. She was about to find out what happens when you spy on a man who owns the sky. Karen must have spent that entire week locked in her HOA headquarters. A converted pool cabana with air conditioning, 2 ring lights, and what I assume was an emergency Botox kit. Because when she finally reemerged, she had a plan. A bad one, naturally. She started flying her drones at night. Thought she was being clever. Only problem? Eagles see better in the dark than her HOA lawyer reads a warrant. I woke up to the sound of shrieking plastic and aluminum guts being spread across my alfalfa like techie bird feed. My eagles were now working night shifts. I started leaving them snacks. Then came the threats. Real ones. Karen posted a public statement claiming I was compromising community harmony and posing a serious threat to airspace safety. I'd never seen someone weaponize suburban vocabulary like that. She even tried reporting me to the FAA. The FAA? For what? Operating majestic Freedom Talons without a license? My lawyer laughed so hard he nearly tore his rotator cuff. But the best part? Her drones started losing GPS signal over my ranch. She didn't know I'd set up a legal jammer system, completely above board. FCC approved for wildlife research and every inch of it paid for in advance. Karen's toys would fly in, do a confused spin like a drunk mosquito, and crash into the ground in front of my trail cam. I posted those clips on my channel. One even had a built-in Karen cam that recorded her screaming, "Get back here," as the drone nosedived into a patch of manure. That episode got 2 million views and a sponsorship offer from a birdseed company. And then the escalation reached full Karen. She filed an injunction, claimed my eagles were trained to attack people, and accused me of maintaining a paramilitary avian strike force. I swear. Her exact words. My lawyer filed a countersuit for harassment, property invasion, and attempted technological trespass. The judge? A man with a mustache like a thundercloud and zero patience for drama. After 5 minutes of listening to Karen describe the trauma of being glared at by aggressive poultry, he dismissed her complaint with one sentence. "Ma'am, this is not a Marvel movie." Karen didn't take that well. She hired a wildlife consultant named Trevor. I knew he was a fraud the second he stepped onto my land wearing sandals and a GoPro, claimed he was there to observe behavioral patterns. I told him if he wasn't gone in 10 minutes, the eagles would start observing his shoelaces. He asked if I was threatening him. I said, "No, just warning you. Nature's got opinions." Trevor left after 7 minutes. He didn't even make it to the pasture. Later that week, Karen held a community recovery picnic at the HOA park. She banned me from attending, then played drone footage of my farm with red circles drawn around random hay bales like I was hiding missiles. But her grand presentation got interrupted when one of her drones, yes, she tried again, flew overhead, only to be dive-bombed midair by General Talon in full cinematic glory. The crowd screamed. Kids cheered. Karen fainted into a bowl of egg salad. That clip? 15 million views. Overnight, my Eagles were TikTok famous. Someone auto-tuned Karen's scream into a remix. Billboard Top 100? No. But emotionally satisfying? Absolutely. The war wasn't over, but she was cracking. The HOA board looked ready to mutiny. Brent from the last scandal tried calling me. I let it ring. Because if Karen thought she could out-crazy me with surveillance drones and HOA declarations, she forgot one thing. I've got time, sarcasm, and birds with beef. And the higher she flew, the harder my Eagles were going to knock her down. I wasn't expecting the FBI, 3 lawyers, and the local news van to show up on my land before breakfast, but that's exactly what happened. Karen had pushed the nuclear button, or so she thought. Apparently, filing a federal lawsuit and accusing me of using military-grade birds to sabotage surveillance equipment was her idea of a masterstroke. Too bad for her, one of my Eagles had snatched a drone mid-flight and dropped it, intact, right in front of a sheriff's deputy who just happened to be visiting about an unrelated cattle theft. Turns out she'd been breaking about 6 FAA laws, a few local trespassing ordinances, and had violated some kind of peeping Tom clause in the HOA charter itself. But did she back down? Oh no. Karen doubled down. She showed up in person, stepping onto my porch like she was Clint Eastwood in a soap commercial. Her blouse was tucked so tightly into her high-waisted khakis, it looked like she hadn't breathed since 1998. "You've declared war on the community," she snapped, waving some paperwork in my face, "and we will not be intimidated by your feathered mercenaries." I laughed so hard I nearly fell off the porch swing. "Lady, you brought a drone to an eagle fight." But Karen wasn't here for punchlines. She had a restraining order, a cease and desist, and some weirdly specific document claiming my ranch was technically in a noise-sensitive region. Her evidence? A shaky drone video that ended with claws and feathers blotting out the screen like a horror movie. I guess that's how she planned to win court cases now, with jump scares. What she didn't know is that I'd already called in reinforcements. Not the legal kind, though my lawyer was sharpening his claws too, but a few of my tech-savvy nephews. By sundown, we had a jerry-rigged jammer installed that scrambled any drone trying to cross my property line. Karen's entire surveillance grid crashed faster than her last Botox appointment. Then came the twist of all twists. Turns out one of her own HOA board members was secretly fed up with her too. He leaked a treasure trove of HOA emails, revealing Karen had been using the HOA funds to buy custom spy drones and even tried hiring a falconer to train counterbirds. I kid you not. She was preparing for an avian arms race. The final straw came when her own husband, who until now had the charisma of a potted plant, publicly apologized at a town hall. "I didn't know she was using our Wi-Fi to live stream his backyard," he muttered, sweating harder than a cat at a dog show. The crowd turned. Karen stood frozen, betrayed, and speechless for the first time in her life. By the next week, the HOA board held an emergency vote. Karen was booted, not just from the board, but from the entire neighborhood. They invoked a rarely used clause about bringing dishonor and high weirdness to the community. She had 30 days to leave, and as she packed her U-Haul, one of my Eagles soared above her house, letting out the most majestic, sarcastic screech you've ever heard. Even the birds knew they'd won. I live-streamed the whole thing, got over 500,000 views. If you enjoyed the saga of Karen versus the Eagles, make sure to hit that subscribe button and follow for more spicy HOA drama.